What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and some more Birthright coverage as we continue to make our way through the northern marches here. So today we have an NPC kingdom, that is the goblin kingdom of Thurazor. So it's lawful, evil, not available for PCs, as we just said. But this is an interesting one. So we have an actual, again, goblin kingdom that really is going to be an interesting one if you find yourself being a neighbor of them. So let's jump in here. So they have six, provinces here. So not overly well settled, although Murgarot is at a 4 there. Actually, so is Falling Timber. Fair bit of magical potential, though. So, and then the law, as we see here, is interestingly set up. So, you have essentially the goblin leader here, the main ruler, T-Scar Greycar, who basically controls most of the law. Temples are a little bit interesting as well. We'll see the guild situation. And then the sources are essentially dominated by the eyeless one, although we'll see there's a little bit of competition there. So let's just jump right in. So the regent, His Most Eminent Highness T-Scar Greycar, is a pretty good size, or not good size, but a good level fighter here. Minor bloodline, lawful evil, but he rules the kingdom of Thurazor. So he wrested it from the previous ruler, and basically, that expects that pattern to repeat itself. But he is, kind of aware of that and has some plans in place, which should make it interesting if the PCs do find themselves trying to plot his demise in different ways. So he keeps the shaman Kral, Two Toes, fun name there. So it was a priest, with him to dispense justice and keep the people in line with threats of divine wrath. So he doesn't trust Kral, but he does allow the shaman something of a free rein, as he wants to maintain favor with the more fanatic goblins. He also sends this lieutenant, him, a little bit of a typo here, so basically to deal with minor kingdom matters from time to time. So basically he just sends him out when he doesn't really want to deal with things that aren't really worth his time. The 6 provinces here have been explored hardly at all by Anuirans, despite the prime lumber and magical sources available. Makes sense, again, with it being largely dominated by the goblins. That being said, if you were running Birthright as the sort of domain ruling version of the game, where you're running, a kingdom or some other form of domain, then this would certainly be a great one if you could ever take it over, and would certainly gain you, I think, a lot of goodwill, good favor amongst the human population. So, but goblins being goblins, there's, probably a million of them to deal with. But you really could work to try and destabilize his rule and basically get them fighting each other, and then kind of just swoop in and gradually deal with them. So, important NPCs. Though he doesn't realize it, both Cariel and Dosone's guilds want to ensure that the kingdom runs smoothly to protect their revenues. In this matter, the guilds work together, though any domain with a guild presence must expect some backstabbing. So there is that kind of going on beneath the surface there. And really, part of the reason for that, too, is, if it goes from being kind of stable and, having the one ruler to deal with, it, again, goblins being so numerous, could very well spill over into war with these neighboring domains. So Kral knows that shrines to human gods lie hidden in the realm. The temples, growing stronger all the time, cater to goblins sick of the constant bloodshed and hatred that the goblin god preaches. The shaman has no idea of these temples' locations, but he thinks he's closing in. When he finally finds them, basically they're going to get sacrificed. So that is an interesting one too, if you happen to be able to find those temples, and just the fact that you have these human temples trying to convert goblins to their religions is kind of bonkers, and could be fun to explore as well. And another way to sort of work on potentially destabilizing the kingdom, if that is your intent. And certainly would be fun if you're just adventuring in and around that kingdom for some reason and happen to stumble upon one of those. Certainly would, I think, be an okay, safe area to find too. So, the description here. Without a doubt, Thurazor is the most civilized of all the goblin kingdoms in Anuir. Though inhabitants exploit its lands, the domain seems in better condition than the other kingdoms. The goblins try to maintain their environment. They even attempt to replace the trees they cut and cover the mines they dig once they've extracted the minerals. Isn't that wonderful of them? The goblins' concern for their surroundings is something no Cerulean would have ever expected. So, interesting that they do try to take care of the land a little bit there, as opposed to neighboring kingdoms like Cariel, for example, where essentially deforestation is the order of the day with the guilds. Of course, this consideration doesn't mean the residents have turned from their evil ways. Far from it. It's just that their king has diverted their attention from war and carnage to other fields like trade, which brings in more profit. His subjects understand this royal manipulation, but they appear afraid to counter it. He pays in the Greycar pays his enforcers pretty well. So the goblins here labor away, mining and foresting, while the more violent ones slip away into the Five Peaks or Dozone to form mercenary companies. So, and again, if you're playing in and around these territories, again, you should certainly expect goblins from Thurazor to show up in many different ways and capacities, not just, again, from the typical bad guy, low-level monster that you often encounter, but again, these need to be sort of reframed in this case, in this context of this political entity, this kingdom. So this pattern suits the king of Thurazor just fine. It not only rids the kingdom of poor laborers, it also removes those most likely to threaten him. Chances are good that they'll get themselves killed in one foreign war or another, and then he doesn't have to worry about them. So it eliminates that problem of too many mouths to feed, basically. If too many of his people start becoming violent, he figures he can always start a war with one of his neighbors, then sue for peace when enough troublemakers have fallen by the way. So pretty sly there on his part. His capricious attitude toward treaties makes dealing with him difficult. So the domain's neighbors have learned they can trust the goblins to stick to an agreement as long as it remains expedient for the Goblin King. It is a credit to his guile and ability to inspire confidence that he continues to rewrite treaties with his neighbors, all the while making his offerings appear invaluable. So the goblins of Thurazor have become fair woodsmen, giving up their mountain lore and adapting to the forest, though they'll never become as accomplished as the elves in moving through the woodlands. They can creep through the forest without making undue noise. The best of them leave to become scouts and spies for the human realm. Some even study under human rangers, which is fun and crazy to think about and encounter as well in the game. So that is it on the description there. So we're left a little bit brief, right? We don't know necessarily what sort of standing forces he has, although given the fact that there are some on loan, essentially to Dozone, I think it was the Goblin Cavalry, right? We should imagine a decent little army for him. That's something, again, that the DM will have to decide in games if we're, worried about or focusing on the campaign version, or sorry, the domain, running a domain campaign version of the game. Now, if we're just adventuring, certainly, again, there's going to be goblins all over, and that should be something of a surprise, too, for adventurers, possibly being sort of spied on and crept up on by these goblin rangers, which could be something fun and different. And again, just lots of different things to explore here. So again, the eyeless one really controls most of the magic here. And as we've talked about with Five Peaks, really isn't someone to trifle with, although Toril and Varese does have a little bit of sources here, but again, not much. The temples, again, we see that essentially everything is, or almost everything is run by Kral Tutos, but again, we have a little bit of the hidden temple of Kureikin, for example, and we saw those a little bit in the Five Peaks as well, so it would be a really interesting opportunity there, to find like a safe haven like that, and again, just this hidden human temple that's trying to sway the souls of the goblins here away from their evil god towards worshiping a human god. So really just wild and crazy stuff here, but that's Birthright, and that's just one of the things that makes this so special. So let us know if you have adventured in and around Thurazor, and if you have run a domain and have had to deal with Thurazor in your campaigns and what happened there. Did you sort of maintain more diplomatic relations with them? Did you eventually try to conquer them? What did you try to do, and how were they acting in your campaign? As always, hit us up in the comments, guys. Thanks so much for checking in, and we will see you in the next one as we move on to Mark Hazor and Morkalad. So thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time.